People often ask a strange question about African Americans. Do we even have a culture? Do we have traditions? Do we have practices that define us the way other cultures are defined? But the real question isn't whether we have a culture. The real question is whether people understand where that culture lives. Because much of our history is not only written in books, it is carried in the way we speak. Welcome to Heritage Dialects, where we explore African American linguistic traditions and the history carried in the way we speak. When it comes to linguistic tradition in the African American community, there is often a deeper conversation taking place about identity, culture, and history. Sometimes African Americans are spoken about as though we are a new people. But that is not accurate. We are not a new people. We are an old people functioning within a new system. And when we begin to understand that distinction, history and linguistic tradition suddenly become very important. Because what keeps a people aligned with who they are is not simply geography or institutions. It is memory, it is practice, and very often it is language. Much of our history lives inside the way we speak. Even today, the grammatical structures, phrasing, rhythms, tonal patterns, and intonations found within African American speech can be traced back to African linguistic traditions. The way we emphasize certain words, the way our sentences are structured, the musicality of our speech, and the rhythm of our communication. These things are not random. They are cultural memory. They are part of a linguistic inheritance that has been carried across generations. But when we begin speaking about reclaiming traditions, something else must also be understood. Reclamation must be intentional. We must carefully examine what we are reclaiming and ask an important question. What purpose does this tradition serve today? Are we cultivating traditions that will strengthen and guide the next generation? Or are we simply repeating the same patterns that our ancestors had to practice without asking why those patterns existed in the first place? This is why the study of linguistic traditions, such as Mama Tut, is so important. Mama Tut traces its beginnings to an early argot-based coded form of speech known as Tutnese, which was historically used to obscure English speech. But over time, through community practice and evolution, it has grown beyond its original coded function. Today, it is studied and cultivated as a living linguistic tradition. And this cultivation is not about nostalgia. It is about responsibility. Because not every tradition needs to remain frozen in the exact form in which it began. What makes a truly powerful tradition great is its ability to serve the people across generations, across time, across social change, across new systems and environments. The traditions that endure are the ones that carry with them a moral compass, a sense of purpose, and a connection to something greater than ourselves. But even with tradition, we must maintain a discerning eye. We must avoid assuming that we understand tradition simply because we inherited fragments of it. And we must avoid following tradition blindly. This is why, in our classes at Heritage Dialects, we constantly ask questions. We encourage our students to ask questions. We encourage them to explore meanings, examine linguistic structures, and understand how language evolves within communities. And most importantly, we encourage them to use language creatively. To use language the way all living languages are meant to be used. To express identity, to express thought, to express culture. Language should never confine a people to its original purpose. Instead, it should inspire new forms of expression, new ways of thinking, new ways of speaking. That is how culture grows. That is how linguistic traditions survive. And that is how a people carry the wisdom of the past while building something meaningful for the future. Because in the end, culture is not simply what we inherit. Culture is what we cultivate. And language is one of the most powerful tools we have to do it. And that is why at Heritage Dialects, we say, our language, our legacy.